Hi everyone and welcome to another video from Korean Studio. My name is Kim Gi-hwan. And in today's video, we're going to learn how to say and to connect two nouns. Now in Korean, there are actually many different ways of saying and it depends on whether you're connecting nouns or whether you're connecting clauses or whether you're connecting two nouns or three nouns and so on. So in this video, we're going to focus on a way of saying and in Korean to connect two nouns. And altogether, there are three different ways of saying and to connect two nouns. Seems very complicated, but I promise you it's not that complicated. The most formal way of saying and to connect two nouns are to say 와 and 과. Here are two examples. 수지와 민수, Susie and 민수, 수지와 민수. 선생님과 학생, the teacher and the student. 선생님과 학생. Now, the use of 와 and 과 is relatively simple. We simply attach these particles to the first of the two nouns. And if the noun or the name doesn't end in a 받침, like 수지, then we use the particle 와. But if the noun does end in a 받침, like 선생님, which ends in a 미음 받침, then we use 과. And as mentioned already, 와 and 과 are very formal. So they're commonly used in very formal settings and also in very formal writing. In everyday situation, we don't use these particles 와 and 과. We have another pair of particles and they are 랑이랑 and 하고. Now, 랑이랑 and 하고 are standard way of saying and to connect two nouns. Using them isn't disrespectful at all. You can certainly use them with your parents, people who are a bit older than you, even with supervisors at work, and even when you're talking to strangers on the street, you can use 랑이랑 and 하고. They are the standard way of saying and. I think it's just that the particles 와, 과 are very formal and they tend to be used in very formal settings only. So even if, when we're talking to people with seniority and we need to be somewhat respectful, we can use 랑이랑 and 하고 and it'll be totally fine. Okay, so let's take a look at some example phrases. 어린이랑 부모, the child and the parents. 어린이랑 부모. 가방이랑 노트북, a bag and a laptop. 가방이랑 노트북. 자전거하고 버스, a bicycle and a bus. 자전거하고 버스. Now, same as 와, 과, 랑이랑 and 하고 are attached to the first of the two nouns. And in terms of attaching 랑이랑, if the noun doesn't end in a 받침 like 어린이, then we use 랑. But if the noun does end in a 받침 like 가방, which ends in an 이응 받침, then we use 랑. And 하고 is attached to the noun regardless of whether the noun ends in a 받침 or not. So it's a little easier to use 하고. And in terms of what I use more, I think I tend to use 랑이랑 more than 하고. And I think I tend to do that because 랑 and 이랑 are uniquely used to mean and. It's not used, well, shortly I'll kind of explain how in another way that they can be used. But the syllable 고 in 하고 can be used in many different phrases. So there's like the 고 itself can mean and to connect two clauses. There are other phrases like 하고 나서. So there you have 하고, but it doesn't mean and. It actually means like after. So I think I tend to use, I know that I use 랑이랑 more. And I think I do that because maybe I'm trying to avoid confusion. Because if I use 하고, maybe people will understand it in a different way. I don't really think about it, but I think in terms of what I use more, I tend to use 랑이랑 more. But as I said earlier, they use interchangeably. So if you're ordering a burger and chips in Korea and you want to say 햄버거 하고 chips, doesn't matter. Or you can say 햄버거랑 chips, either or. Yeah. But in terms of what I use more, it's 랑이랑. Okay, so let's take a look at a few more example phrases. 개랑 고양이, a dog and a cat. 개랑 고양이. 학생이랑 선생님, the student and the teacher. 학생이랑 선생님. 피자하고 햄버거, a pizza and a hamburger. 피자하고 햄버거. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, if the noun doesn't end in a 받침, then we use 랑. But if the noun does end in a 받침, then we use 이랑. And 하고 can be used with any noun, regardless of whether the noun ends in a 받침 or not. Now, one other way of using these particles is to use them to mean with in English. Here are a few example sentences. 저는 사장님과 식사했어요. I had a meal with the CEO. 저는 사장님과 식사했어요. 수지는 민수랑 학교에 갔어요. Susie went to school with 민수. 수지는 민수랑 학교에 갔어요. 저는 친구하고 영화를 봤어요. I watched a film with a friend. 저는 친구하고 영화를 봤어요. So in these sentences, the particles are attached to a noun, but they're not connected to the following noun. And in these situations, these particles are used to mean with. And these particles are often followed by the word 같이. So in the first sentence, we can say 저는 사장님과 같이 식사했어요. And this sentence still means I had a meal with the CEO. So do keep that in mind. Okay, so that's it for today, and I hope you now have a better idea of saying and to connect two nouns in Korean. See you soon again. Bye-bye.